Hi, everyone. Today we're going to talk about how to create a design plan for your medical device in 30 minutes or less. So I'm going to spend less than 30 minutes and I'm going to actually show you how to do this right from our templates. Your design plan might take you longer because you haven't done this before, but it might also take you less time if you follow the method I'm using because it's not going to take very long. So pay attention and I'll share my screen here so you can see what I'm doing as I go along. Okay, first we're going to share our screen. Okay, now you can see the software package that I'm using here. It's um, called Monday.com. It's a project management software tool. We recommend using a project management software tool to keep track of all the things that are in your design project. There are going to be a lot of people involved. There's going to be a lot of expense, and it's going to take you a lot of tasks over many months. So using a project management tool will help you keep everything sorted. It's hard to keep it all in your head and figure out what's a critical path item and what's not, unless you've done this hundreds of times before, like I have. For me, I can tell you this is going to be the critical path. You don't need to worry about those other things, but you need to see it for yourself. So build a Gantt chart using a project management tool the right way. So that's what we're going to do here. I had created a special workspace in Monday.com for StreamYard demo. So I'm going to minimize that. And we're going to start with a new board. And we're going to call this Demo Design Plan. And we're going to just go ahead and create it from scratch. Okay. And it gives me some automatic things in here. I don't need this much detail. So I'm going to delete this first group. Okay. And it asked me yes, I want to delete the group. And the second group, we're going to call this Phase 1 Planning. Because a design plan has multiple phases. Any medical device project typically will have multiple phases. You can use the old waterfall approach. You can use a more modern V diagram or iterative approach to design. In reality, in the medical device industry, you have to use a hybrid process. The technology for doing a waterfall approach to design planning, that's 1910 technology from World War I. In 1996, it was copied from Health Canada, who copied it from the 1994 ISO standard for ISO 9001. It's really old, but it's a stage gate process, and the gate that you have to pass through is regulatory approval. So you have no choice but to at least have one gate, the regulatory approval. And probably the second gate that you absolutely have to have is release of the product. So if you're going to have a gate for regulatory approval and a gate for launching the product commercially, everything prior to that could be iterative. So that's why we say this could be a hybrid process up to the point of regulatory submission. Okay. Now what I'm going to do here, I'm going to delete this first item here. Actually, there's a quicker way to delete. I can just select items and then go down here to the bottom and I can click on delete. So now it deletes all the tasks in that, and I have to create new tasks. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you our template for a design plan. So this is our design and risk management planning template. It's template 21. Excuse me, I have a little bit of a cold. One of the advantages of doing everything virtually. So in our plan, which we sell as part of our design control procedure and as part of our risk management procedure because it covers both aspects. If you go down a little bit, the beginning is just who approves the plan, revision history of the plan. You put in a description of your device that should match across the board in your project. So whatever it says for a general description in your instruction for use or user manual should be also in your device description, should also be here. You have an overview of the project. This might be where you describe how many phases you have, where you're going to have a design freeze, whether you're going to use a hybrid process or the old-fashioned waterfall process. And then we get into the phases. And you can see here, phase one's really short. We only have 3 items in there. So I'm going to take those 3 items and I'm going to go back to here and I'm going to paste them right here. So now I am done. I have created the first phase. Copy and paste. Now, we might want to specify who's going to write the plan. Well, the only person that I've got on the project right now is me. And since I'm creating it right now, we'll say I'm the person we're going to assign. But one of the reasons why our company chose Monday.com is so we can share this with customers at no cost to the customer. So we have an invite board. Right now, it can only be shared with people inside Medical Device Academy. But if I go back here to the main table, I'm sorry, not main table, but I open up this a little bit. Sorry, it's a little difficult to navigate on a bouncy keyboard and move your mouse. There we go. And change the type to a shareable board. So now it's shareable. And now when I go up here to invite, it gives me another column of options. All I have to do now is assign a person that is not in Medical Device Academy ownership of this. So I can go in here and I can pick anybody that we've already shared with, or I can pick a new client. So that's how we can share. You could also share with vendors. So if you're working with a design firm, you're working with a marketing firm, you're working with a contract manufacturer, you might want to share it with them because they might have responsibilities too. Anybody over here that you add to the project, so I'm going to add our Director of Sales, Lindsay Walker. Now you can see she has a gray crown instead of a blue crown. We want to make her an owner. So owners get blue crowns. And then the guest, you can give them different privileges, but they don't own it. They're guests, and they don't have to pay for any license because they're guests. If you want to create your own project, you can copy it and paste it over, but I'm showing you how to create this from scratch, and this is why we use this package. So now I've shown you how you share. So now I can assign tasks to other people. So I could go in here and I could say, well, Lindsay's going to create the user needs because she's a marketing person. She's going to tell me what the customer needs. And you can have design review meeting minutes at the end of the meeting. You can also add columns here. So I could add in the timeline for the project. So now I can select dates, like when am I going to create this? Well, I'm going to start it today and I'm going to finish it on Tuesday. I can do stuff like that. I can also add items that are other columns for other topics, and there's hundreds of different things you could add. But we like to add files a lot. So this is where instead of sharing things in Dropbox, which also costs our clients money, oftentimes we'll do everything in Monday.com so they can share the files right here, and you can even have version control here. So that's how we do this in general, and we can indicate the status of it. So we're working on it. And maybe Lindsay's stuck. She doesn't know what to do there. And maybe here, we add a new label here. We say, waiting for signature. And then we would hit apply. And we would select which one we want to apply. So that's waiting for the signature. So that's how I create the first group of projects. And now we have a timeline on there. So you say, okay, this is when we're going to have the meeting. You could add as much detail here as you want or as little detail as you want. Because, and everybody's like, but I'm not done. It's not perfect yet. You are supposed to update your design plan as the project progresses. So you can add more detail as the project progresses. It's not set in stone. You didn't carve it in stone. It's in silicon. You know, it's a web-based platform that's project management. And you can keep control of all the changes. We can see the changes because it keeps version control too as well. And we can rename it. We can even say what date we made changes. There are also places to put questions and comments. So Lindsay can put what question is, I'm stuck because, and put that down. And she can even attach a document telling you why. So that's really helpful to know. And now we see a little blue comment show up in the bubble. So the idea is to put notes in here and prepare for the meeting, cover all your questions, get all the drafts out there. So when you show up for the meeting, it's fast and efficient, less than an hour meeting. Then we're going to do our next phase of the project. So we're going to add a new group here, and you can change colors and all kinds of things with this tool because it's very, very versatile. But we're going to have phase 2, and we're going to call this the requirements phase. So the requirements phase, these are design inputs. YouTube really, really wants me to watch it right now, evidently. So we're going to go back to phase 2 here, and we have a lot of different deliverables in phase 2, more than we had in phase 1. So I copy the whole column, and then I switch tabs, go back here, and I paste them. Okay, there's my design plan. It's done for phase 2. Now we're going to add in phase 3. And we're going to call this design freeze. So when we have the final design review at the end of phase 3, we call that a design freeze. This is normally one of the longest phases. It's where we have the iterative design and development of the product, where everybody wants to perfect their design. This is also where you would probably do maybe a supplement, or I mean a pre-sub to the FDA, and maybe a supplement pre-sub, or maybe even 2 supplements. So in this phase, you might do formative testing for usability. In this phase, you do a lot of your risk analysis. You've started risk analysis, but you're going to do a lot more in this phase. You would be doing your electrical designs. You'd be doing your software development, some software testing, maybe some evaluation with customers focus groups to look at early versions of prototypes, that minimum viable product that everybody's looking for. So that's what you do in the design freeze phase or the third phase. And so I'm going to go in here, and it does not matter what name you call your phase. The regulations don't stipulate that. Your procedure stipulates that. You don't like the name of it? Change your procedure. Give it a new name. Or say right in your procedure that you can rename it as you wish. So that makes it a lot easier when people get hung up on names. Don't worry about it. So there's all the phase 3 deliverable tasks. Okay, now we're going to go to phase 4. And this is going to be our V&V portion, our verification and validation. You're absolutely welcome to split this up into verification and validation as 2 separate phases. Nothing wrong with that at all. For those of you that don't know what the difference is between verification and validation, verification tasks are where you're verifying that it meets a requirement, specifically a design input requirement, whereas the validation is verifying that the finished device is going to meet the user needs and perform the intended purpose of the device or indication for use. So typically that's performance testing and usability testing. The performance testing would be non-clinical benchtop, animal testing, clinical testing, could be cadaver testing. It could be finite element analysis. It could be a sawbones model. It could be the summative usability testing. All those are considered validation because you do them with a finished device. All the other testing you can do on parts of a device, potentially. So you might do sterilization validation. We call it validation, but it's a process validation and a design verification step, and it's done sometimes on dunnage. So it's not necessarily the same as a finished device. It might even be a partial device. It might only be made out of the same materials. So that's why we call it a verification activity. Same thing for biocompatibility, electrical safety, EMC testing, trying to think of other tests, reprocessing, software verification, reprocessing, I think I've already mentioned, cybersecurity testing. All those things are going to be verification tests that you do. The validation is in the performance section of your 510K E-stars. So that would be a separate section. And the reason why you would probably separate it, if you're going to separate it, is because you might need an IDE approval, an investigational device exemption from the FDA. That would be a logical reason to split it into two groups. And it would be because you have a regulatory hurdle that you have to cross, an IDE approval. So therefore, that would be the reason why you'd want to get all that testing done first, then submit your IDE, get your IDE approved, and then you can go on to the validation stage. If you're going to do a cadaver model, you don't need IDE approval. So then you can just jump right in. And you can even do some preliminary cadaver work and then do your final design validation in two parts. So you might have dry runs with a cadaver where you're testing and learning and trying different iterations of the product. So it's possible to do them as one phase, or it is possible to split them into two phases. You have to decide how important is it for you to have a gate there. And if there's a regulatory requirement, then you have to have one. If you're doing something in Europe, a clinical study in Europe, you're going to probably need approval from the competent authority in the country that you're going to be doing it in. Okay, so now we're going to go on to phase 5, our final phase. So this, still YouTube wants me to watch. Okay, so this one, these are going to be our phase 5, and this is going to be FDA review and product release. We're going to put these two together in the same phase. You could split them. You could say, just because we get FDA review done and we get their clearance letter, that doesn't mean we're ready to release. We maybe need to scale up. So maybe there's some design transfer activities. We need to scale up so we're making it cost effectively. Maybe we got our initial 510K clearance, but we don't want to launch that commercially. We want to make some additional changes. So we're going to do a 510K, an additional 510K. It could be a 510K special, or it could be a traditional. But to add some additional changes to the device, you might have done a 510K for the initial version of the device for one set of indications. Then you're doing a clinical study and expanding the indications. So there's several reasons why you might split this into two phases as well. But let's just say we have one phase that covers the review and the release. So we're going to go down to that section. And it's not as long as 3 and 4 were. There we go. We're in that section. And you can see we have animal studies and might be done here. Human clinicals might be done. So it's possible that you might be doing additional testing for new designs. It's possible you might be making changes to the device. It's possible that the FDA might come back to you and say that's not sufficient. We need you to do additional testing. But you can move these tasks around. They don't all have to be done in the phase that Rob put them in. That's not necessary. You can move them around. So if you want to work on your animal testing earlier, you move it up earlier in your schedule into phase 4, into the V&V stage, where most people would put it. If you say we don't need to do animal testing right now, we just need clearance, and we can do that with benchtop testing, we'll do animal testing later, push that out. Same thing with maybe human clinical testing. Maybe you're only doing the human clinical testing in order to support reimbursement. That's a very common practice. A lot of people think the road ends when I might get my clearance and then the sky will fill up with money. It's not how it works. You now have to convince reimbursers that your product is actually safe and effective and cost effective versus the alternative treatments. So you might need some clinical data to do that. So that may be why you're doing a clinical study in phase 5 after your 510K clearance, and you didn't need it for clearance. So we put those tasks in there. You can make these columns wider if you want. I'm having a little bit of trouble doing that. So you go like that, make it wider. In here, I put blank template references and form references. You would put those over in this files column and then read them as you fill them in. You don't have to use ours. You can substitute for your forms and your templates. And you may not have all the tasks that we have in here are valid. For example, if you have a device that has no software or firmware, all the tasks that I had in here that were for software and firmware go away. So we had security risk management, data from monitoring cybersecurity metrics, cybersecurity testing, software unresolved anomalies. All those are going to go away. So there's a lot of software activities in here you can just get rid of if you don't have software in your device. If you have a non-sterile device, get rid of the sterilization validation, bioburden testing. If you have a disposable device, you don't have to do anything for reprocessing. So I tried to put everything in here that could apply, and it's for you to delete. So delete the tasks that don't make sense. And if you have a set of devices that are all the same and they're all going to have the same characteristics every time, we only make this type of device, then save your draft template with those things deleted so you don't have to keep on deleting them every time you start a new project. And that'll help you out a lot. So this is what we have for a demo design plan. We did this in less than 30 minutes. I've got all the tasks in there that are in there from our template. I've put it in monday.com. I've added a timeline. What I have not done is given dates to everything here. Like I said, you don't have to have 100% of the detail at the very start. You're supposed to update as the project progresses. So it would be perfectly acceptable in your initial version to say, when am I going to do this design review? Oh, well, I'm going to do the initial plan back here at the beginning of June. So maybe I'll do the next meeting sometime at the beginning of July. And I'm not going to do it July 4th week. It's a short week. So maybe I'll do it this week. So I'm going to have it Monday through Friday, the week of July 7th, somewhere in there. It's going to be design review 2. And then down here, phase 3, I might say, well, that's going to take a lot longer. I'm not going to get it done in June. I'm not going to get it done in July. I'm not going to be done in August. Not going to be done in September. Let's say it's the beginning of October is when I get that done. So that's when I put that in there. You decide when you want these to occur. If you know other milestones, you have constraints. This software has the ability to add in prerequisites and dependencies. You can put that in here. You have the ability to display it in multiple different ways. So up here, I can have different views, not just the main table, which is one, but I can add other types of views. And it doesn't affect the original table. It just gives me different views. So I can have more like a Trello board, a Kanban board here. A lot of people like those. That's another view that you can have with the same thing. You can have a Gantt chart. You can have just a chart. You can have your calendar. So I can put down in the calendar here and I can see when these are going to occur. And that's really helpful. That might be more helpful to your team to see where it is on the calendar. Oh, we have too many things going on that week. So think about that. And we can go right back to the main table. And everybody can have their own view also. That's one of the things like, oh, you screwed up all my views. I had it all just the way I want it. You can lock it so they can make their own view however they want and sort it and tabulate it and however they want. But you can have your own fixed view that they can't change. And that's really helpful for somebody that's a project lead that wants it done a certain way. And then the clinical person only wants to know certain other things. So you look at it the way you want to and the view that you want to. So that's how you create a design plan. And I did this in less than 30 minutes. Yes, we're still before 1 o'clock Eastern. And I started a little bit late. So it's less than 30 minutes. According to the clock here live, it says 24 minutes and 1 second. So if I can do this, people that tell me, well, I don't have time, I'm not ready. Those are lame excuses. You do have time. You have 30 minutes. You can do this. You can delegate this. Watch Rob's video and then do that. There you go. You just delegated. And number 2, you're not ready yet is also a lame excuse because I told you, you can update. You're supposed to update it as it progresses. I want a draft. It's just a draft. So when somebody comes and asks you, have you started your design history file? Yes, I have. I've started my design plan. Yes, I have. We're good. But other people tell me, no, we haven't. We don't even have a design procedure yet. Well, where are you? Well, ready to submit to the FDA. Huh? How can you be ready to submit to the FDA and you haven't got a plan yet? That doesn't compute, but it happens all the time. So if you're in a bigger company, I'm sure you have this under control and you have your way. But if you're a startup, take a look at how we do it here and share this with other startups that are doing this for their first time. We want to make it as easy as possible. So check it out and please share. Thank you, everybody, and have a great weekend. If you have any suggestions for future topics, put them in the comments below. Thank you. Bye-bye.